Welcome, everybody. This is the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, and every week we bring you the stories of people around the world making their communities better. They do this locally, globally, and digitally. This is something we like to celebrate, innovative approaches to service to others. Rotary International is dedicated to service above self. It's an organization of well over 1 million people in 36,000 clubs around the world, all gathered together to build their communities through a shared focus on combining their talents and time and treasure in interesting ways and enjoying the joy and meaning that come from serving others. As the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, we have a special interest in innovative service and look for ways to tell stories that we think can inspire people in different places around the globe, ways of finding possibility and inspiration in stories of what others are doing, and especially cool when those stories have to do with what is happening in Rotary already. We love to celebrate the good things that happen through the Rotary Foundation and the projects of Rotary clubs all over the planet. Today, our speakers are two Rotarians. One is Christina Buering. She is a German Rotarian. She has been a Rotarian for almost 30 years now, started in 1995. She will also become a member of the Rotary International Board of Directors starting next July. So, Christina, congratulations for being honored with that task and challenge. Claudia has been working on Rotary things for a long time, but is a new Rotarian, having joined our club, the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, just this year. And so my favorite line from the introduction is, as a photographer, Claudia has worked internationally and has accompanied Christina since 2016 in Rotary events. Together, they search for a new imagining of Rotarians in an ever-changing world. And with that very cool line, I hand it over to you both for your presentation. For our audience, this presentation may go a little longer than ours normally go, but we are excited to hear the story. And Christina, I hand the mic to you.
Thank you, Rushton. Hello, everyone. Our subject is peace. And from a European point of view, peace has become something not only abstract, but very real, as in absence of peace. Claudia and I had planned to go to Cyprus, and we did that in May this year in order to see a country which is still divided as a country from a country as Germany, who used to be divided. From Cyprus, we went with the Cyprus people to the district conference of their district in Amman, Jordan. And this was May. And I think the dates are important because in May, we were discussing a war, a possible war in Lebanon. Now we have one. We were discussing of what's going to happen in Syria. Now we have a problem. And the people we met were, and this is very special to this particular district, 2452, from those countries. It's a district composed of 9 different countries, and every one of them is a problem. Is a problem with inner peace or outer peace, but every one of those countries is difficult. It starts with Cyprus, divided into Turkey and Greece, goes on to Sudan, which is really a war. It's Jordan, trying to balance things. Lebanon, war-torn now. Palestine. It has Armenia and Georgia, again, not peaceful, but all those people work together through Rotary, and we found this very fascinating. So we decided and this was very spontaneous. Claudia decided she wanted to take portraits. And there was one question in the room, which was peace. What do you think of peace when you come from a country like Jordan? And this is how this project started. And the picture you were asking about, it is in Gaza. And the question then in May was, how can we help in Gaza when there's no Rotary Club in Gaza? And Rotary does not do anything where there is no Rotary. So the Palestinians insisted, let's do something, but there's nothing in Gaza. So we were in a very real situation of an unpeaceful world, knowing that Jerusalem is 1 hour, 2 hours drive from where we were. And and we want people to think. This is why we brought the Lions back. What is peace? Because I think we forgot when we live in peace, how important peace can be if you don't have it. Now, Claudia, as a photographer, perhaps has a few thoughts when she decided, and um, it was kind of a process.
Yeah. So this whole journey was my first action after joining Rotary. So and I was very happy to go there with Christine. Because I think too it's one of the most interesting districts, and I'm always interested in portraits. So portraits is my work as a photographer. I call it more documentary portraits because I think it's always interesting to see somebody and get a bit idea of the background. And this time, this question, what is peace, it's not easy. So, and I think everybody can think about it and give an answer. So and the outcome for me was very interesting. And maybe we just go through because I think this is the easiest way to understand the whole project.
So we kind of go back and forth, each one sharing one of the photographs. This is George. George was a moderator together with me. He's from Lebanon, so he's right in the middle of things now. And he said, peace is everything. In a very practical way. If you don't have peace, you can't work, you can't be productive. So he was tired of being in a life of crisis. And I think this is an interesting thought, to live a life of crisis all the time. Claudia?
Hussein said, peace is the foremost need of humanity. Its foundation for all positive innovators. To preserve human dignity is peace.
So the question of dignity is one to discuss. Is it a human right to have peace? We all think that, but it's more about the human rights. It's about the dignity to be taken as a person who deserves peace. And my friend May, who is also in Lebanon, with whom I wrote yesterday, she has daughters. She's always worried about electricity. And she thinks that Rotary is a very important part for peace, because we learn in Rotary not to interfere in other people's problems and still help. So we are a neutral platform, even inside of a country where people belong to the same Rotary clubs, but still to different religions and to different sides of the conflict sometimes.
Jihad is very interesting because he lives most of the time in the United States, in California. And for me, very interesting is the sentence, a smile could be a start for peace. And because this is just such a small gesture, but it can make so much in a conversation between people in relationships. And this was an interesting part for me, that sometimes it's just a small thing that can help.
As for the people, if you wonder where we got them from, everyone we showed you until Shehab, who was a district governor at some point, or will be one. Shehab is a major donor. He's given a lot of money, and he's very, very active from America in foundation work. So if you want to have a specialist in the Middle East and ask questions how to give money or help in a project, Shehab is the person to go to. Abdul Hamid was our favorite. He's from Egypt, and he's really the gentleman. And I think the funny thing is that you always have this picture of the Arab person yelling and doing crazy things and not being really, really positive in our point of view, at least from the European side. And then you have all these people who are very cultured and very thoughtful, and he is certainly one of them. And for him, it is that we as Rotarians can bring people together, a little bit of like what Mona said, that Rotary is a place where people can come together, and that's our work, to open up. So this platform is there. And at the same time, of course, doing projects, be active, and I think this is really important in a country which is so corrupt as Egypt is, to set ethical standards.
Peter is from Cyprus, and he said peace is a thin line that even a whisper can cut it or destroy it. Whispers are increasing.
And this is interesting because in Cyprus, the Rotarians from both sides, the Greek and the Turkish sides, work together. Peter will be a district governor next year. Now, Jamil wrote a long, long letter to the German Rotarians because they have a big project in Lebanon. You know, the refugees sitting in the streets, basically, because Israel has bombed the poorer parts of Beirut. They have to go somewhere. And if you imagine a life where you don't know where to go to a toilet or have a shower or warm up, they decided that they'd use the quite neglected rooms of schools and renovate them a bit. So for the refugees, it would be, or it will be, hopefully, a place of comfort and basic hygiene. And when hopefully the war is over, the situation in the schools, which is not very good because the government doesn't pay for schools, will be improved. So this is a Rotary project, and I'm still looking for the money to start like 5 schools to start with, and then go for the patterns through more places in and around Beirut.
Ashot. And this is for me a very important statement too. He said, our perception of the world becomes different when there is inner peace. And this is, I think, something that is also very important, and maybe also for schools to think about how can we teach children inner peace.
And this, I would join with that was something Jamil, the guy before from Lebanon, said. He said it's really worth investing in education, because with ignorance comes fanatism, and with fanatism, kids are easy prey for the next war. So sometimes it's better to wait up and just afterwards pay money into or give money into projects which have to do with education or improving schools. Michel is a French-speaking Armenian, and he is the link of the district to the French Rotarians. For him also, the political thing, of course, is very important. And you know, if you want to manage things with Rotary with Turkey, Armenia is not a good subject to take up. Yet again, we are not political, so we can acknowledge that there's a need in Armenia to do things, and we all looked away in the First World War, so we're all in a way guilty for Armenia. But you know, it's still, we can discuss that in Rotary, and to understand each other and each other's history, he believes is a first step towards peace.
Daniel, he's from Romania, and he has this very interesting question: is peace in us by nature? And I think it's very interesting to reflect about this. But
whether we can educate people into peace, or if people are peaceful by nature and made violent. He is the current director for the region. He's the director for Africa, the whole of Africa, Middle East, and Southeast Europe. Now, Kevork was a favorite too. He was a big smile. And he said, you know, with a joke, you might build that bridge and show people that you take them on a level seriously, even though you might not speak the language. So everyday peace for him is something which is very important. And he was a governor as well.
And Christina, she's also from Cyprus, has another point when she says, if you dare to back off one step, we might see that we can meet closer. And this is also a very good thought, to just take a step back.
Farid is one of the younger people in Jordan who organized this district conference, which, by the way, was on the environment. It was a green conference. So in the middle of the desert, we talked about trees and water and heating and what. It was really interesting. So he thinks that Rotary is there to build bridges. And he also thinks that Rotary gives us the opportunity, and this is why our portraits for us are educational, hopefully, because it gives it the opportunity to speak and give information on countries, and first-hand information. So why is there a conflict? What is the deeper reason? Without judging that, just accept them, what is. So this is his message of peace. And with that, we have finished. Perhaps the funny thing about this, how we got those portraits, was we got those people out of the conference near the part of the hotel where the swimming pool was. And Claudia asked them to just stand in front of a wall, and nobody understood why it's just a stupid wall with nothing, because she'll explain better than I. And then we interviewed them, and there were people in the swimming pool and people running around, and we were discussing really philosophical stuff. And with that, during those days, came out of a conversation with a lot of people on what is peace and what is peace in our countries and what does Rotary do for peace. So now we are
for us, this is just the starting point. We would like to keep this growing and make a collection of people from all over the world and collect thoughts, and maybe we can create a platform to share it, and hopefully we can inspire people to reflect about this whole thing and what everybody can do for peace.
So we are very curious about your impressions, knowing, as you know, that there's a peace conference in the same region in February in Istanbul, where Rotary opens the Peace Center for the Middle East. So we're very curious about your feedbacks. What is peace for you? And would you use portraits and interviews to promote the idea of peace or thinking about peace? Thank you.
What a wonderful presentation, Christina and Claudia. Thank you so much. As we like to do, we like to introduce the people who are part of the recording. So I'll have you guys stop sharing the screen for a bit there and introduce the group that we've got. It is quite early in our recording time here on the West Coast. We started a little after 6 a.m. I'll note for our audience that means that we are a club that can accommodate people and speakers from anywhere in the world. I think there are those who have been excited about the idea of being part of a service group, but have been essentially held back by the thought that they're not going to be able to make a lunch meeting or something. Our platform is both online and asynchronous. And so for those who are quite busy but want to dedicate themselves to service in some way, ours is a platform that might work well. All right. So I am going to have us, there we go, click out this way, and I'll introduce two of our members who have joined today. First, in Italy, our treasurer, Cecilia Babkirk. Good to see you, Cecilia. In Houston, Texas, Rory and Gus, both joining us. Gus, always good to see you. And my name is Rushton Hurley. I live in San Jose, California. And so Claudia and Christina in Germany. Let's start with this question of the Peace Center that's going to be established in the Middle East. Christina, can you tell us a little more about that particular item that you dropped right at the end of the presentation, to tell us a little bit about its plans and its purpose? Is that being funded by the Rotary Foundation? Those kinds of questions.
Thank you. As you know, the Rotary Foundation has Peace Fellows. The foundation pays for Peace Fellows, so people can apply. These Peace Fellows are kind of seeds which we bring into societies, because as professionals, they grow if they've already studied something, or they can study, and we pay for them for a master class. So these universities with whom we have contracts are spread all over the world, and there is none in the Middle East. And the question, and there was an endowment from a couple for a center, which means basically a department in a functioning university, which would take up the subjects of peace and has already done peace research. So there was quite a choice. Amman was on the list, Istanbul was on the list, Jerusalem. And in the end, it became Turkey. There's always a committee who goes and talks to all those universities and sees how they treat the students, what the level of science is. The last one we opened was in Makerere in Uganda. And Istanbul in Europe is a bit of an issue because of the political situation. However, the Rotarians in Turkey are rather the liberal people. So in a way, we strengthen their being there by showing liberal values in that peace education, which means compromise, acceptance of other cultures, negotiation rather than judging things. Yeah. So this will be, it's already working, and the big opening with Stephanie Urchik, which the world president, will be in February. And we will be there, both Claudia and I. Again, traveling.
Excellent, excellent. Cecilia will be there as well.
Oh, great.
We'll be represented by both Claudia and Cecilia. I'm very happy to say. Claudia, for you, when we look at these pictures, and let me take a moment to explain to those who might be listening to our podcasts as we try to get our many stories into a podcast for those who want to take in their Rotary meeting on the commute or on the treadmill or whatever that may be. The images that are the portraits of the different people that have been highlighted in this presentation, they're very close in. So you're seeing someone very close up, which is very powerful. You know, that ability to see the smile so close, you know, the lines on the face, things that essentially give you a sense of who that person is quite visually and viscerally. Claudia, can you speak a little to your work as a photographer and your choices for how to set up these photographs go so that they can be a part of this story the way they have?
In this case, we met at the conference in a hotel. So when I show people, in this case, I wanted to have a neutral background because the whole location didn't have to do with them as a person. So it was just, a hotel with very straight and very, very difficult light situations. So, and this is for me, I want to people they should like their own pictures. So I'm always looking for a place with the best light. And sometimes it's needed for the story to show where they are. But this time I thought it's much more intense to have just a face and see somebody directly into the eyes, because also the statements, they are also very personal in a way. And so this time, this connection between a very, very, so to lose the distance, that was the idea.
Well, you achieved it very successfully. That there are no distractions at all, essentially, in the background, I think make these portraits particularly powerful. Talking about the messages that are a part of these, because each portrait comes with a quote from these people featured. A number of the times Christina, in talking about this, you made the point that Rotary is not political. Now, of course, everything in a certain sense is political. Everything, right? And so the question, in some respects is, how do we keep from being partisan, right? How do we keep from becoming part of only one side of of an issue when our values may be very clearly on one side of an issue. And so can you speak to some of the high level discussions that happen in Rotary about that desire for politics not to interfere with what Rotary seeks to do with service?
Well, personally, I think Rotary has to be very, very political, because if we want to defend our vision of humanity, this is political. So we have to make a stand. We can't just say nothing or do nothing when we see what we call our values being ignored or not being transmitted. So I think there's a responsibility of every Rotarian to be in his or her society a beacon of those values and live that. And this is the reason for these portraits who've been published in the German Rotary magazine. They're online. They've gone to the district in the Middle East. They can use them. What we are not is a platform which takes sides. And this was one of the issues in Amman, that, of course, the Palestinians wanted Rotary to take a side, as did the Israelis. And the Israelis, having a better lobby, did succeed in having first a statement, which was clearly condemning the events in October this year, but it was not taking in account the miseries which have been suffered by the Palestinians. So during the whole of the conference, the Palestinians tried to kind of get a message, say something. And everyone agreed this is not going to happen. Everyone knows about the miseries of everyone else. But the question is, how do we help? Not how do we judge? And in order to help, we have to come together. So I think this is it's a difficult thing. And I know in this case, it has been on a very high level because of Gordon's response, a discussion of how far do we go. But Rotary can end a war. I mean, if you look at polio vaccinations in Gaza, they stopped fighting for 3 days, and polio was our idea. And the money for the vaccination by hazard was part of the bunch we gave to the WHO. So yeah, we are political in a humanity sense of word.
Well, I think you point to the understanding that there is complexity in everything. One of the problems with politics often is that those who seek to use politics to their advantage also seek to simplify issues past the complexities where we might find middle ground by understanding that complexity. So that's what I took from your answer, and I think that's a powerful
And I
message.
think this is what Rotary also does, is that like we give you information because we received firsthand information.
Mhm.
So as a Rotarian to a Rotarian, you can exchange the information and ask the questions. And I think this is important.
So that reminds me of something that was one of the quotes. Peter Shidijan, I hope I'm pronouncing his name properly. He talked about whispers, and at one point he said, "Whispers are increasing." It struck me in that moment, and Claudia, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this as well. Talking to someone who has that understanding that there is an issue before it becomes open conflict. So in a sense, the peacemaker is someone who has to be attuned to when something is going wrong, to know when whispers are increasing and it's time for us to act. In your interaction with Peter, did he have a variety of things to say about the role that Rotary plays in trying to address conflicts maybe before they start?
Uh, Interesting. So in Cyprus, there's a special situation, and this is what we found. What was really surprising in a way, because Cyprus has there's this the northern part, or we already learned that it's difficult to how to say how do you talk about the situation, but usually people say, oh, there's a Turkish part and there's the Cyprus part, but this is not how people there would describe it. So there are the Turkish Cypriots and there are the Greek Cypriots, and
You go
already
to the north or the south, the north being the Turkish part, the south being the Greek part. So you don't even say that.
yeah, and it's not the Turkish because it's Turkish Cypriots, and already in this very small country there is a lot. It's very difficult to communicate already, and this is nothing about the big things. And I think also you just had elections, and with all the new communication channels, it is a serious thing to think about, and I'm not sure if there's already a solution to how to handle all the whispers. And this is maybe something that we need to explore a bit better.
Got
Because
it.
so as a person, what can you do in the moment? Because all the media channels are talking to you. So how to sort this information is already an issue.
Claudia, nice. I mean, that zeroing in on what can you do, I think, is a good segue to our final question as well. And the final question that comes in is really about a comment that was part of the quote from Fareed Musharbash, and he talked, or your quote from him was about the role of projects. And to me, that is a very hopeful message. That the idea that Rotary's projects in places that we are trying and that we are working to make things happen. That is a very active piece of how we foster peace. And I'm wondering, Christina, if that was in essence the goal of putting the project of a book together.
Um, yes, because in a way, the question is how do you reach as many people as possible to think about peace, to be aware that this is not something which is there by itself, but is something which has to be achieved, to be learned, to be trained. Uh, and I think you can learn peace in a Rotarian sense of discussing things and finding common ground and building bridges and accepting what is and trying to do it better. So I come from the city in Germany which does all the playing cards, and I sell playing cards. So we were thinking about can you use the portraits as cards and give them, for example, to students and make them find out what they know about Lebanon and then discuss their perceptions, as what Claudia says, from different channels, you get different realities. And then realize, oh, there's not that one reality. There's not bad or evil or one side, which is totally right. And then starting to just by a picture of a person to have empathy, because a conflict or a country becomes a person. And this is what Rotary does with all our exchange programs. So yes, it is a project which does not help in the sense of getting money, but the idea is it might help, and this is the question to you all, to do things like this and then go out in the community and talk to younger people or people in general and make them reflect. Where's the difference between them and us? There's none. It's just the circumstances. I could sit in Beirut and be freezing. Now I freeze because my fire has gone out. But you know, it, uh, but it's I think it's a mean to an end, that project, to make people think. And I think this is some of the responsibilities we might take over as first world Rotarians who do have toilets and infrastructure and perhaps less of a need than people in the countries we just talked about.
Beautifully said. We'll wind things down, and then as we always do, we'll hand it back to our speakers for the final word. So all of you who have joined us for this recording, thank you. Thank you for taking your time to work with us, to share our excitement for hearing stories about the work people are doing around the world. We hope that you will leave a comment on our Rotary page if you are at rotary.cool, which is the shortcut to our site. And let us know what you think of this or any other element of our meeting. Before we hand it back to you for the final words, Christina, again, I want to thank you for your dedication to Rotary and your willingness to step into a director's position. And Claudia, I want to thank you for sharing your talent with these pictures. These are really beautiful photographs, and I hope that those who are catching this program get a chance to really take a long look at the power of the visuals that you bring to this. Christina, what would you like people to have clearly in mind as they finish the podcast or the video?
I think that peace is a decision and that it's work. And that it's very satisfying, even though it's difficult. And it's worth it. And I think it's a very central thing to be a Rotarian, to reflect on that.
And Claudia, last comments from you.
I would love to hear some comments and your ideas what peace is, and if everybody just reflects for himself what peace means on a daily basis, then we reached our goal.
And hopefully we will see those ideas in the comments wherever you may have encountered this program. Everyone, thank you again for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Bye-bye.